Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Wild Traxx.
Oh, is that what we're calling it?
I think so. We're gonna stick with Wild Traxx right now because we spent so much time on the logo.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was a long time.
Well, hello everybody. I am Rick Viers of the Detroit Chop Shop, and with me is my buddy and partner in crime, Mr. Gary Allison.
Hello, hello.
In my head, they're all clapping for you right
Yay.
now. Gary and I, we've been together for quite a while.
Professionally,
we're not really friends, but we've done a ton of stuff. But you produced at the Chop Shop for, oh my gosh, I don't even know how long you produced here. 10 years?
No, well, no, not that long. It was 5 years.
Was it 5?
Yeah, it was 5 years. And then,
It seemed like 10.
Well, we did a lot of projects before that. So, but officially,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We did. Yeah. And then we've done projects on top of that as well.
Right. Yeah.
Before and after.
After.
I found this little gem when I was getting ready for the show. See if you can recognize this guy.
Oh my gosh. What was that for? Why were we doing that?
I don't know.
Why did I agree to that?
I'm not sure, but I love the hair.
Yeah.
It speaks to me.
I still have that shirt.
Do you really?
And in fact, I'm pretty sure that any picture that you have of me from way back when, I will say, I still have that shirt.
All right, see if you have this one then.
Yeah, I do. I still have that shirt. I remember that. That was taken in Studio B.
That's right. That was a promo shot we were doing for Paper Bag Theater back in the day.
Oh my, Paper Bag Theater.
Paper Bag Theater.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The children's program that never was.
Yeah. Well, it was because we produced several shows and we actually got distribution.
We did. We got distribution. We actually
had
international
distribution.
International distribution. Yeah. And we had a deal with a studio that
went
kaput.
Yeah, went kaput. I never heard back from them either.
Well, of course not. There was
what are you going to do? But we've been through a lot of stuff together. Some things I'm willing to talk about and some things, probably better left unsaid.
Just can't shower in peace.
Do you have that shirt? Actually, I still have that shirt somewhere.
I don't know why I actually had to be nude for this photo, though, because you don't really see my body.
I'm in I think that's a 4X shirt. Oh, my gosh.
4X. I remember that shirt.
Yeah.
Do you still have that?
I still do. I have it sitting in storage.
Is it your nightgown now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I bought it in the moo section at the store.
Where's Rick's moo?
So check this out. This is Studio D. Back in the day, this is when you were here actually producing. And then this is where we are at today.
Oh, a little different.
We could probably just cut to the wide and actually see our bodies.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Woohoo. And here we are.
New rug.
So you were here when we actually built this room.
Yes, I was.
And I found these pictures. I found actually some of the construction pictures. That's the material.
Drywall.
Yep. Drywall and way too much insulation. We crammed. I can't remember the specs. It was like 4 inches of wall, and we crammed like 9.5 inches of insulation and 4 inches of wall.
Soundproofing.
Yeah,
that's why. Yeah.
Doing our best to we could. Yeah.
Right.
And then here's us actually building.
I didn't actually partake in the building aspect.
I didn't either. I kind of just stood around and said, "Oh, that looks heavy."
Right. Yeah.
You don't want me around tools unless I'm making noise with them. But this is actually the room that we're in now.
All right. We're sitting where the hammer is right now.
Yes, that pile of sawdust represents this table. Mm-hmm. And then this is the other side of the glass.
The Foley room.
Yep. So there's actually 2 walls back to back that separate the rooms.
Right.
And then this is us sticking the insulation in.
I remember soundproofing this was a real pain.
Yeah. That's the challenge, is getting the noise to stop from entering the room. I didn't really mind about sound bleeding out of the room. It was just stuff getting into the room.
Right.
We didn't want anything entering into the mics, but that's us putting it together. And then, of course, Orlex sent me a bunch of foam that we used to put on the walls.
Yeah. You had to have your picture taken with it.
Yes, I did. Actually,
Were you
here's the thing.
expecting a sponsorship from Orlex?
I'm still big here. I just lost all my weight in my face, but behind those boxes, I'm huge. They put the boxes in front of me, hide my body. And then there's the...
and that was the finished product.
That's the finished product.
Yeah. Well, it was a great room. A lot of work done down here.
We produced all of the seasons, the 6 seasons of the Chop Shop. We produced all the videos out of this room. Yeah, this was kind of like headquarters.
I can remember doing some commercials and stuff and having the clients sit back here and and try to tell us how to do our jobs.
Exactly. And then there was like the button that didn't do anything. We would turn it for or push it. You mean this one? Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Don't do anything.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I found pictures, actually, when I was going through this. I found pictures of like my very first gig when I first got out of Full Sail. Actually, I have pictures of me at Full Sail. So this is me. This is 95, actually, when I was at school there. And then notice I'm not wearing the sound equipment.
I noticed that.
I didn't go to Full Sail to learn sound. I actually went there to learn film production, and it wasn't until afterwards that I got involved in sound. But my very first gig, once I graduated from Full Sail, so they're in Orlando. I had some buddies that were playing in a band that I went to school with them before Full Sail, and so they invited me down to play in the band. So I came down there, and I got a gig at a place called Carpenter's Home Auditorium. So it was this mega church, like 10,000-seat auditorium, and they would run concerts and stuff through there. And me and another guy, we got hired to do their sound installation. Now, when I say we got hired, I mean he got hired and I was his assistant. I knew nothing about sound. But this guy he had at least 20 years on me. And he was a super nice guy. And he kind of literally showed me the ropes on how to like solder and running cables and, all the stuff that I learned at Full Sail. Because we had a lot of extensive sound classes at Full Sail. But all the stuff that we had learned there, I put in practice for like 3 months. And I got pictures of it. So this is one of the rooms. It was a giant, it was a mega church. So they had a broadcast studio. They actually had, I think I have they had a radio station here.
Oh, wow.
And then there's some of the patch bays. So what we did, this is front of house right here. So we essentially connected all the rooms. So there was the front of house position, there was monitors, they had the radio station, the broadcast booth. So we had to take the audio feed and split it to all these rooms.
Right.
So I learned Patch Bay 101. So I learned how to wire all of this stuff.
Holy smokes. Look at that. All that obsolete wiring.
Yep. This was, I learned signal flow on this gig. So it was my life for 3 months. So all of this stuff fed into a concrete floor down that hole, and then it ended up in this massive tunnel that you could walk through that would go from one end of the auditorium all the way to the other. And then it would end up in this giant room here, and you can see that's all audio that's flowing into there. And then from there, it gets distributed and split to all the other various rooms.
Good grief. Wait, now, correct me if I'm wrong. There were 2 people working on this?
It was just me and that guy. And technically, if I'm being honest, he did most of the work because I didn't know what I was doing. I carried all the heavy stuff and I did a ton of soldering. I burnt my fingers so many times. But the weird thing is I don't know if it's a nostalgic thing, but I really enjoy the smell of solder. Anytime I smell solder, I think of this gig.
That's weird.
Well, because I mainly hadn't worked with any tools whatsoever before this gig, so this was my first exposure. I learned a whole bunch of stuff, though. In fact, I learned so much about signal flow that when I got back to Detroit and started looking for work, I was looking to freelance in the industry.
Right.
My very first gig was actually rewiring an editing suite. And I was able to do it because of the fact that I had went through 3 months of training on this gig. And then after the 3 months, they ended up bringing me on as the lighting director. So then I got to learn lighting. At
this church?
At the same facility, yeah. So I got to go up into the catwalks, and it was massive, very
big
huge.
was this place? I mean,
I'm trying to guess. I want to say that the ceiling had to have been at least 30 to 40 feet in the air.
Holy
So I'm up in catwalks, but it was a drop ceiling. So I'm above in the catwalks. You can't see where I'm at, so I learned all about lighting and all that kind of stuff. But then I got to KDN here in Detroit.
Good old KDN.
So this was the editing suite before they brought me in, and you could see the CRT monitors and beta decks and all that kind of fun stuff. There's actually a Chiron generator over there out to the right of the desk.
Somebody said, we got to make this look professional.
Well, that was me, and I came in and I kind of rewired everything. I did it in one day, and they were so impressed with the fact that I could come in and do it. That was a Friday. The very next day, they put me on a gig with Ford Motor Company. I was doing sound actually it was like a corporate video or something. But it was my effort this day, working and putting all that together, that got me the next gig.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got you to do exactly what you want to do, which was production work.
Correct. Yeah. I knew if I just got my foot in the door, I could figure it out from there. But it was a hard nut to crack because I was sending resumes out and
well, it's Detroit.
There wasn't a whole lot of production going on. But once I got connected with these guys, it was just a matter of a few months before I was like regularly working with all of the companies in the area.
Hustle, kids, hustle.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's a different world now, but back then, the best investment I had on my career was $40. I bought a box of business cards. And every gig I went on, I brought the business cards with me, and I would walk around and introduce myself to people. And, well, if you're looking for this and that, here I am. And I didn't put sound on the card, though, because I wasn't a sound guy.
Right.
I was like, all I put was film, TV, and video.
Sure, you want to cover the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, I still wanted to produce and write and direct and do all these other things. And so I just left it as vague as I could, just film and television production. And I got a lot of gigs. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, back in the day before I really, really got started, I was a licensed pyrotechnician. So I did a lot of pyro for shows like I did Rammstein and Limp Bizkit, did stuff with Kid Rock and Eminem and D12. And so they would come in and do shows, or they would shoot a music video, and then I would pull the permits with the city. In some cases, I would actually build the pyro devices. So before I did sound...
That's before those guys were big, too.
Who?
You got Kid Rock and Eminem and stuff.
I was actually on stage right before Kid Rock's, the big blow-up show that he did. I was the last person to talk to him before the curtain went up, because I had to go in and tell him, look, this is where the pyro's going to go off. And right before the show, literally right before the curtain goes on, I'm on stage with him going, here's your mark. And he's like, all right, good to go. And he's a super cool guy. And then I walked off stage, and as soon as I walked off stage, that was it. They started playing, and then he became Kid Rock.
Yeah, I remember seeing he did I think he was at a Woodstock anniversary or something like that. He played for MTV, and he was regional at that point. He was just breaking out. He had his big show here where he got his record deal, which is the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then he did this, I think it was a Woodstock anniversary, 25th anniversary of Woodstock or something like that, where he came out. And I remember watching it on MTV, and I'm thinking, and he's in a fur coat, it's summertime, he's in a fur coat, he's got the hat on,
it's
he comes
Kid
out,
Rock.
does his thing, and I'm like, who does this guy think he is?
I remember them. This was at the State Theater, which is now called the what's it called now?
I think it's still called the State Theater.
No, it's not called the State Theater now. It's called something else. I'm totally drawing a blank.
I always call it the State Theater.
I call it the State Theater. I still call it Pine Knob.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't call it the DTE. But at any rate, I remember being at the State Theater before he showed up. Everybody was talking about him. The people that ran the place. They're like, pay attention. Bob's going to be huge. His name's Bob. Bob's going to be huge. This guy's great, and all that kind of stuff. And he was super, super cool to work with. I worked with him a handful of times, and he was just super nice.
Yeah, I've worked with him, but it was after.
Oh, that's right. You went to Russia. You went to Russia with him.
Yeah, great guy, fun guy. He's a fun guy.
What was the story? You guys ended up in a restaurant, and there was a certain dress attire.
Oh no, we were invited. The government in Russia invited us to this ball, and it was in honor of Igor Larionov, who used to play with the Red Wings. He was part of the Russian team back in the day during the Soviet Union days, and so we were all there for that. And we show up, and there was a dress code. You had to wear slacks, you had to wear a nice shirt, you had to wear a tie, and all this kind of stuff. And Kid Rock, Bob, walks in, and he's dressed like Kid Rock.
Right. As you would expect him to.
He's got the hat. He's got it. He looks like a Michigan hillbilly, with a fedora.
Yeah.
And he walks in, and just as someone says, and no hats allowed, and he's got this red hat on, or whatever, and he goes, oh, what? I wish somebody would have told me that. I mean, what am I going to do? And I looked at him and said, you're Kid Rock. Act like a rock star. Who cares? Go in. You'll be fine. And at that point, he had taken off his hat because he didn't know what to do. And his hair was all matted in.
Hat hair.
I go, put the hat back on. You're a rock star. Nobody will say a thing. And you actually watch the transformation of him. He put the hat on and just kind of like, oh, all right, I'm going to do the Kid Rock. And he walked in. Nobody said boo. I mean, he was, of course, the star of the party.
Oh, yeah,
and all that
sure.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was fine. But yeah, it was a cool moment to see the insecurity of a superstar.
They're people too.
They're people too. Yep. Exactly. Yep. So yeah, it was fun. But we had a great time. We're 10 days in Russia, so in the middle of winter.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember you going on that.
Yeah. It's a fun trip. But yeah. But that was good stuff.
So when I moved back, I got an apartment, and here's the apartment. Actually, this is my view from the apartment. I had a spare bedroom, and I turned the spare bedroom into.
And what part of the ocean is that?
It's not actually. This is me in the studio, but this is all right. So if I'm looking out my window, This is what I would see. There's M59 is the main road back there. So back in the day when we were growing up, that was a 2-track road.
Yeah.
This was no man's land.
Yes.
Like this was the boonies.
This was the sticks. Yeah.
But the lighthouse, I was so excited because it's a working lighthouse. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. My bedroom window is facing the lighthouse. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking this is going to be great. And the first night, I swear, every 8 seconds, I got blasted with about 20,000 watts of light in my room. It was so bright that with your eyes closed, you could feel it.
You blinded me.
So, I kind of developed like epileptic seizures because of the exposure to that. But and then the next room over, the spare bedroom, is where I had my first studio.
Speaking of Kid Rock.
Oh, yeah.
This is what Kid Rock would be like if he gave up.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I looked like throughout most of the last half of the 90s. It looked like Kid Rock just gave up. But this is actually my desk.
Nice.
Yep. I remember getting that Mackie mixer. For me, that Mackie mixer meant I was a professional. I'm like, I'm an official sound guy now.
What's funny is that this is pre-internet and all that kind of jazz. As far as like Instagram and social media.
Internet
stuff.
was around, but not everybody had an email address. So
Yes.
that's how new the internet was.
There's no social media or anything like that. So you have to think to yourself, audience members, why was Rick taking this photograph? Who is he trying to impress?
I don't think it was a matter of impressing. I just wanted to document the fact that I was like, I had a studio.
Oh,
I had
okay.
a rack and everything.
All right.
I had a subscription to Post magazine.
Oh, and all the pros read that.
So clearly, I was in the industry.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And there's actually DAT tapes. Those were DAT tapes.
Yeah, DAT tapes.
So back in the day, I would go out and record. And if I recorded an hour's worth of stuff, I would have to come back, put the DAT tape into the player, hit play, and then I ran like SPDIF out into my sound card. But I'd have to play it in real time for an hour in order to digitize it back into the computer.
Yeah, and then what? Then cut it up and all that kind of jazz and into individual files?
Yep. And then from there, I began the process of chopping up the sound, hence the name Chop Shop.
And oddly enough, that was light years ahead of what you used to have to do.
Oh, yeah. Yes. This was a completely different world than what the guys had to do when they first started cutting up movies. I mean, they were using razor blades and stuff.
Razor blades and Scotch tape and glue.
Yep.
Yeah.
At one point, this literally only lasted for a couple of weeks, I think. But at one point, I ran out of hard drive space on my.
What'd you have? Like a gigabyte?
I had 2 gigs.
2 gigs.
I'll never forget the day I had a buddy of mine, actually from Full Sail, came over and helped me install my first computer. And I'll never forget the look on his face when he's seen 2 gigs. He's like, "You got 2 gigs of hard drive space." He did. He's like, "You'll never fill it." Like my phone's got like 256 gigs on it.
Right.
That was the thing, is I would never fill it. Well, I ended up filling it. So at one point I thought it would be a good idea because I wanted to clean off hard drive space. Hard drives back then were super expensive, so I started putting them on floppy disks.
Oh my! And what's that? A whole 50
I think there was like
kilobytes?
3 sounds on there. It's like half a sentence of somebody speaking, but that didn't last very long. And then from there, I think I went to zip drives for a hot minute. And then from there, I started burning stuff on CDs.
CDs.
And then DVDs didn't come till later.
Right.
But I found this, and I think you actually booked this shoot. But this is us. I forget the name of the guy. He was
up near Flint.
He was no. I think this was near Ferndale, if I remember right.
Oh, that's right. He had all this old.
He's a Grammy winner,
and
multi-Grammy winner, if I
Yes.
remember right. But he had like this massive phonograph collection and wax cylinders and all that stuff.
Right.
And he let us come and record some of this stuff. And you can see right there, these are wax cylinders.
cylinders, yeah.
Yep. And this is actually playing wax cylinders here.
Wow.
And we ended up recording the very first recording, a public recording of Thomas Edison.
Really?
Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
I have it queued up.
I don't believe you.
I have the technology. All right, here we go. This is Thomas Edison being recorded publicly for the first time.
Thomas A. Edison, the inventor of the phonograph, has never before permitted his voice to be recorded for the public. Today, however, he has a message for you that is important enough to cause him to break his long-established rule. Mr. Edison will now give you that message. I beg to introduce Mr. Thomas A. Edison.
This is Edison speaking. Our boys made good in France. The word American has a new meaning in Europe.
So there you go.
Wow, it's a couple things. One, there's way too much hiss on that track. Secondly,
I'm trying to clean it. Back then, they didn't have noise reduction. Dolby wasn't around just yet.
Secondly, people don't talk like that anymore.
No, they certainly don't, Gary Allison.
And I beg of you to listen here.
As a matter of fact, they don't, sir.
Oh, Mr. Thomas A. Edison.
And then the same guy he owned one of Thomas Edison's 10 original foil recorders.
Oh, wow.
And they were solid brass, and I want to say they weighed like 30 to 40 pounds, if I remember right. It's been a while, but they were like really massive and heavy. Mm-hmm. And the idea was you put a piece of foil around the drum, and then there was a stylus, and you had to speak into the cone, but you had to scream at the top of your lungs in order to get the stylus to move. Mm-hmm. And you can see the Reynolds wrap, we were using that for our foil. But the stylus would create grooves, just like on a record, on the foil, and then you could play it back.
Right.
So this is me. This is a recording of my voice saying Blast Wave FX, the new wave in sound effects.
All right.
I tried to say it the way they talked back then.
Yeah.
Yep. And to this day.
So wait, go back to that real quick. So someone would hand crank that. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Just like with a film camera, you had to actually keep a constant rhythm when you were turning it.
Okay.
So, yep. And back in the day when they had the hand cranked cameras, they would teach the cameramen to sing a song or something to keep it in beat.
Row, row, row your boat or something like that?
I want to say it was da na 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 na, whatever that song is. Da na 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 na. I don't know. Maybe it was Row Your Boat. Let's just go with Row Your Boat.
Whatever. But
that foil recorder recording still lives up in Studio B.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So there it is.
Weird. That was, a little over 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Look how far we've come.
It's amazing what those guys did. But Thomas Edison, he was a genius, and or at least we are told he was a genius.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. There's people out there listening right now going, no, he wasn't. I'm not going to argue. He was a thief.
All right. Well, the machine that was Thomas Edison created a lot of fun things.
Yes.
So. My goodness.
Tesla.
I'm not going to, but yes, Tesla.
And then here's Rick in his happy days.
There's me.
Yeah, I want to work with that guy. Look how thrilled he looks.
I was concentrating on being serious, I guess. I don't know.
I'm an artist.
I did a whole lot of stuff out of that room.
And wait, is that your working pass there?
That is my working pass for KISS. But this room, I did a lot of stuff that is still being used to this day out of this room. In fact, Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
The when they blow up
finale.
This is spoiler alert.
Oh.
Spoiler alert. Everybody ready? This show is like, I don't know, 5 years old now.
It's been off the air for like 10 years.
It's not a spoiler alert anymore. But the clubhouse, when the clubhouse blew up, I actually created that sound effect in that room. The very first day I ever recorded, I recorded that sound effect. So I was at KDN, and it was like on an off day or something, and I was there, and I noticed a DAT recorder sitting on the shelf. And I'm like, I remember, Full Sail teaching us about DAT recorders and using them for sound effects. And at that point, I was just looking for sound, anything that I could use to play with the program I had on my computer.
Because back in the day, you'd buy these crappy little sound collections that had like 25 sounds on a disc.
Yeah. Yep. It was I think it was 100 tracks for like $10.
Yeah.
And they would, let me tell you, it was stellar quality. Yeah. Let me tell you.
Ducks quacking. And,
if you're going to make a movie, run to Kmart and buy your sound effects there. No, but they were consumer sound effects,
right.
But they were still fun. It had for me, that was the real thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is sound effects. But I seen the DAT recorder, and so I asked him to borrow it. And so I went out, I was in like an abandoned construction site or something. And then there was some woods. I ended up recording in the woods. The very first thing I ever recorded was just the sound of the woods. So like birds chirping and that kind of stuff. And then as I was walking through the woods, I seen this abandoned car. And it had to have been from like the 40s. It was rusted to death. And I found that if I leaned on it, it would make this squeaking sound. And that's the squeaking sound that ended up using the explosion. In fact, if you listen to it, you'll hear it. It's the very end of the sound effect. You hear that little? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
What else? I got other sounds. Oh, so check it out. So if you've played Lego Batman, you've also heard sound effects that I recorded or put together, I guess, designed in that room. Any vehicle that would fire in the Lego Batman, like the ships or the cars and all that stuff, when you fired missiles, those are my sound effects. So this is the missile. Yep. I recognize that one because Sean was playing it. And I was like, what are you playing over there? He's like, oh, Lego Batman. I'm like, no kidding. And I kept hearing the missile fires. But I recorded those when I was on the campaign trail with Al Gore back in 2000.
Really?
We did this.
Is this when Al Gore stepped in your sound bag?
This is actually the very same trip. So we followed him.
That's why he didn't win.
Well, it's possible. But me and my buddy Wes Heath, he was the shooter. We followed him from Chicago all the way down to Missouri along the path of the Mississippi. Mm-hmm. So he ended up in the riverboat, and he would travel down the river. And then meanwhile, me and Wes were in a van, and we would drive ahead to the next location and get set up at the next press conference or wherever he was going to do his presentation. So we would get set up, and then he would show up off the boat, come over here, do his spiel, then jump back on the boat, and then we would just kind of keep chasing him. So the very first night we get to Chicago, and we ended up staying at a hotel that was literally right at the edge of the runway. So like 20 feet away, there was a fence, and then that's where the planes were landing. And as soon as I got out of the van, a plane flew right overhead, and it was so close. I swear to you, I could have threw my car keys up in the air and hit the plane.
Oh,
so
my God.
So
that's a recording of the plane.
That was the plane fly. So I sat there for an hour and just recorded planes flying overhead, and then I just sped it up, and that made that little missile sound.
Nice.
And that sound actually killed a raptor in Jurassic World.
Murder.
Yep. So if you watch it, I think it's the scene where they're in a field or something, and the guy fires a bazooka. Mm-hmm. You get yeah. So.
And that's why he's so happy in this picture.
That's why I'm so ecstatic. I'm happy. Well, actually, I'm happy because I got to work with Kiss, but then I'm sad because they left town. Actually, I have a close-up of the badge. Oh, you got a
close-up of the badge?
Oh, heck yeah, dude. I am for those of you at home that haven't figured it out by now, I'm somewhat of a Kiss fan.
By the way, that's the original lineup on that badge.
Correct. In fact, this badge here is for the last time all 4 original members played in Detroit together.
Nice. At Tiger Stadium?
Nope, this was at Pine Knob.
Oh, was that Pine Knob?
Pine
really?
Knob. I think this was before Comerica was even built. This was 99, I think. But it was the last time all 4 members played.
Oh, that's right. Their comeback was at Tiger. Their farewell was at Pine Knob.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then so over the years, I like to collect pictures of Kiss. There's my buddy Dan Phillips actually has the pinball machine, the Kiss pinball machine.
Yeah.
Yep. And of course, Sean's drawn pictures for me.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. I ripped this one up as soon as he gave it to me. I said, listen, son, Paul has got the star, but Gene does the tongue. I ripped it right in front of him.
Absolutely.
Said, don't bring me this crap. Actually, when I go to Lego conventions, Sean got me a little Kiss badge. He goes, here, Dad, I know you like these guys.
He really likes Kiss.
And then, of course, people get me little ornaments for
of course,
for the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I made the mistake one time of wearing a Kiss shirt into Starbucks. Uh-huh. And ever since I did that, the manager and the people that work there constantly reference Kiss whenever I go in. So I get they actually gave me a gift card. If you look, it says, thanks for being a fan or a fun customer. And then it just says Kiss. And then I would get my coffee. I'd get my coffee and they would write things on it like Kiss rules, Kiss rocks. And then if they forget to write it, they would just actually put it in Sharpie, Kiss. And of course,
you spend way too much time at Starbucks.
I drink way too much coffee, I think. But and of course, my fiance Shanette, she's a Kiss fan.
Was she a Kiss fan, or is she now a Kiss fan?
I don't think she's a Kiss fan. I think she knew I was a Kiss fan, and so she's like, "Well, I'll just hold this thing up at the store and pretend to be a Kiss fan."
I like Kiss.
Yeah. So now people at Starbucks think we're both Kiss fans.
Kiss rocker.
But the thing is, Starbucks, they always spell my name wrong. And so, of course, her name is Shanette, but they misspell her name, too. So
Jeanette.
Yep.
Wow,
Janet and Rick.
I said Jeanette.
You did. It's Janet.
I don't read too good.
Her dog is a Kiss fan.
Oh, of course. All dogs are Kiss fans.
Actually, again,
that's just science.
I don't think the dog is actually a Kiss fan. I think she just put the shirt on the dog to pretend like he's a Kiss fan.
That's animal abuse.
Yeah, exactly. And you know Ray.
Oh,
Ray
yeah, I know
Redford. So
Ray.
this is my buddy Ray. Ray's such a cool guy. He's actually down in Florida now, but he's from Detroit, and he was the pyro guy for Kiss in the 80s.
He has some great stories.
I loved Ray is full of great stories. I've yet to talk to Ray where I'm not thoroughly entertained. We got to have him on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So one time, actually, we've had him on the Chop Shop. He's actually blown stuff up for us.
Oh, yeah.
And we've recorded stuff. But so one time, he and I and a guy named Bobby Masano. Now, I met Bobby out in L.A., actually at NAMM. And Bobby's a really cool guy. He's a blues guitarist, phenomenal guitarist. But he played on one of Peter Criss's albums. Mm-hmm. So the three of us went out. We were in Orlando for something. And we were out one night, and we went to a club or something. And in the parking lot, we spotted this car. And it was literally, this is just the front, but literally all around the car, every inch of the car had something about Kiss. It's on the tires, it's on the doors, it's on the mirrors.
Was that Gene Simmons' car?
I don't know whose car it was, but we took a picture of it because we were like, they have no idea who's standing outside of their car right now. So, yeah.
I like to think that is Gene Simmons' car.
It could be.
You know, because you know how he's really big into promoting a band that, you know, everybody knows. It's like promoting the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they were the Beatles, but with blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and makeup.
Well, that's exactly what he wanted.
So check this out. So notice this on the badge. So this is me working for, notice this, VH1, right?
Yeah.
So this is back in the day when VH1 and MTV both played music. So nowadays, this is what the current lineup looks like for VH1.
What?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost
Ark. Yep. But we played, so VH1, we were doing it was a double dipping thing. So we were doing a gig, we were hired by VH1, but they also used the content on MTV because it was the same company. But, so we did interviews with the band beforehand, and we did stuff afterwards. I don't remember the afterwards stuff. I think it was just general B-roll stuff. But during the show, they just wanted footage, and they were taking an audio feed from the front of house.
Right.
So I was of no value during the show. So I looked at the producer and I said, but I bet I could get good Nat sound if I stood at the front of the stage and pointed my microphone back at the crowd.
Use your position.
And the guy knew what I was doing instantly. He kind of laughed. He goes, all right, go ahead. So I stood at the front of the stage the entire show, front row, and just literally just pointed my microphone back at the crowd. So if you look really closely, you might be able to spot me right there. I'm the only guy not looking at the show during the picture. That's how I recognize myself. I'm like, wait a minute, that's me. But during that concert, Ace Frehley, well, they all were. They like to throw their guitar picks out to the crowd.
Right.
And so he was coming up to the stage. You could see me. He's like right next to me. And he's jamming and he's playing. And he takes his pick and he throws it. And it lands and hits my chest and then lands on the ground. So I jump down, I grab the pick, and I'm holding it in my hand, and it was like a movie. You know, I'm looking at this guitar pick that's from Ace Frehley, and then I look, and just behind the pick, there's Ace Frehley.
Looking at you?
Oh, he's looking right at me, and he's kind of smiling. I'm like, oh my God. And then as he's looking at me, he goes just like this.
Yeah.
And then he looks away from me, and I'm like, what is it, Ace Frehley? And I look, and there's two girls sitting next to me. The girl looks at me, and she looks at the pick, and she's just like,
oh.
And I looked up at Ace and I looked at the girl and I'm like, technically I'm working. I'm not supposed to be in this show. I'm like, so I gave her the pick. So he got a big kick out of it. So he reaches over the edge of the stage and drops a pick right in my sound bag.
Nice.
So then I looked at her friend. I just went just like this and walked away and I kept it. And to this day.
Yeah. If it's in the bag, it's.
Oh yeah. It's mine.
Oh,
right. Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
So there's the pick.
Oh, nice. Cool.
And to this day, that pick still sits. In fact, it's a little messy, but it still sits over there by my little Kiss shrine. You can see the pick.
Oh, cool.
Yep. It's not my favorite thing that I have. I got a lot of cool stuff in there. It's one of my favorite, though, certainly. But I think my favorite thing is this.
Oh, my God.
I can't remember. I think it was for my birthday. Sean made me my own Lego set. And so it came in a box that he made.
That's funny.
And he gave it to me, yep.
50 pieces.
So here's some of the badges of stuff I've done over the years. There's this one badge, though, up in the top left-hand corner. You can see the George Bush badge.
I can't believe you said.
Well, there's Kid Rock. There's Kid Rock. Shady Bowl. I got a good Mike Tyson story. He was at Shady Bowl. But the media badge, this one right here for the 2000 campaign, this is what really was the birth of the Chop Shop for me. So during the campaign, it was the month of October and especially November, we were going out on the campaign trails, so to speak. And this was before Sean was born. And I spent so much time away from home that I said, this is no way to raise a kid, because I wanted to start a family. And I'm like, I don't want to be away from home all the time because, you know, me, I'm like dad first, you know. So, so I was like, how can I still be a part of the industry and do what I love to do, but yet still be around Sean? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start a studio and just work from there. And that way I don't have to be gone for, weeks on end and stuff like that. So that's when I got the house and then started Studio A there. Are
you shirtless there?
No, it just looks like it. By the way, this is the last time I wore a white shirt. Take a cue, kids. Like this is what happens when you don't see sunlight. I'm actually whiter than the walls. Everybody wondering why I painted the walls black. It's because, it's because you couldn't see me. I just disappeared.
God. That's what happens when you just sit in the studio all day.
Exactly. Yep. But it was fun, though, because while I was doing that, the whole time I was doing that, I got to hang out with Sean throughout the day, you know, when he wasn't at school. So, yeah. Of course, he used to make birthday cards. I had fun with Sean, though. Anytime we had celebrities or cool people, we could take them around in the industry. We'd bring them around. Of course, introduced him to Matt Bush, who's an international Star Wars Lucasfilm artist, I guess, does stuff for Star Wars and Indiana Jones. He's doing new stuff for the new things that are coming out. But we're going to have him on the show as well. But it was fun having Sean, you know, throughout the years help us on productions and stuff. I love this picture of him. This is him recording.
Did you record Rain?
Actually, I didn't. I've never once asked him to record with me. I brought him on a couple things, but I just I wanted him to have his own interests.
Right.
So I was just like, whatever. And then one day there was a thunderstorm, and I always recorded thunderstorms. Anytime a storm would happen, I would just I would open the garage door and throw a mic up because you never know, you know, in case lightning hits the neighbor's house or whatever. And the rainstorm started picking up, and without saying a word, he just runs and grabs a recorder, walks outside, and I went outside to see what he was up to, and sure enough, he went out there and started recording.
That's funny.
Recording the rainstorm. This is him in Foley recording. I think these are like fart noises or something.
Of course.
He made his own sound effects library once. So if you look right there on the desk, he's got a list of sounds he wanted to put together. But granted, these were edited versions of stuff I had already done, but it was still his mindset was, these are the sounds I want to have in my collection. And then he went and put them all together himself.
Shotgun and cock.
Yeah. I like bullet impact flesh. Yeah, and this is him. That's actually Matt Bush dressed up as the Bane character for season 4. And of course, Sean helped with my latest book, Make Some Noise. He's actually on the front cover. And now this is an older picture. This is a couple years old, but now he's a solid 6 inches taller than me.
Yeah, he's a giant.
Yeah, he's huge. Yeah. And then, so he was really the reason why I kind of shied away from doing location sound.
Sure.
I did it for a while. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was great. But for me, I wanted to spend more time with Sean. And in order to really be successful at production sound, I'd have to be gone on all these shoots and these shows. It's like, I'm going to focus on Sean, while he's...
But not only that, could you imagine still running and gunning? Like that?
Oh, well, now, I don't know. I still like it. I think I would enjoy it, but probably for like the first 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't think I would make a whole week out of it, but I'm not going to lie. I had a lot of fun. It was a blast.
You get to see new things, meet new people and all that kind of stuff, and it's fun. It's fun to be in the mix of that.
I did a lot of ENG, a ton of television stuff, a lot of stuff that wasn't scripted. Mm-hmm. So for me, this was fun. It was like, we had no idea what was going to happen. The luxury of working on a film is you've got a script, you know who's going to talk, you know when they're going to talk, you can plan stuff out, you got time to set up. When you're doing these types of shows, like I don't know when people are going to talk. And a lot of times we were doing stuff for like court TV back in the day, or we were doing events where people were leaving courthouses and they didn't want to talk to us. Mm-hmm. But it was still my job to record them even though they didn't want to talk. So then I have to get fancy with the boom pole and try to pick up whatever they were saying. But yeah, that was the real reason why I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a studio, and that way I can figure out, I can schedule my time, so to speak. What are you laughing at? Everything about this picture for me is funny.
It's like 100 years ago.
It's like 100 pounds ago. Actually, I think I think the official number is 120 something pounds heavier I was back then. Yeah.
That's quite a transformation.
Yeah. It didn't happen easy.
Yeah.
It took me almost, I can't remember now.
That's a lot of ho-hos.
Oh my gosh. The lesson here, kids, is say no to second helpings. That's the lesson. But I gained a ton of weight, but it took me about 5 or 6 years to burn it off. But I wasn't in a hurry. I told my trainer when I got him, I said, listen, I'm not trying to be skinny by the summer. Just like, let's develop a lifestyle where I can, be healthy. So, but if you look, there's those are all DAT tapes over my shoulder. And then this was at the beginning. That filled up super quick. And then we switched over to hard disk recording.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And
then you can actually see there's my DAT recorder sitting right there.
Yeah.
So I could digitize my sound.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
In reality, that wasn't that long ago.
This was probably...
Well, actually, it was. I mean, we're talking, 15 years ago.
This is 2005, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
So this was 15 years ago. Yep. Wow. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and then you can see over my shoulder there, you see the patch bays.
Mm-hmm.
So this room alone, I had like 1,200 connection points. They add up quicker than you think, but I had all the gear, then I had the mixer, then I had the stuff coming in and out of the computer and all that. And I actually had a book that I put together, was like a manual of a schematic, so to speak, of where all the cables were running.
Now all of that's virtual.
Yeah, yep. All of that stuff is a click on with the mouse.
Yep.
But I'm not going to lie, back in the day, it was fun, man. Of course, I got to use all the experience I gained when I was working at that church.
Right.
I got to use that stuff to make my own studio. So I knew how to solder cables, and I knew signal flow, and was able to put together all of these racks and all that kind of stuff.
Plus, if you're if you're a gearhead, that's gear porn. And
I enjoyed it, man. It was a lot of fun. It was, it was a hobby / career. I mean,
spaghetti bowl.
But for me, it was the art of turning like piles of this kind of cable into something like nice like that,
right?
And be able to track everything down. So
a lot of ties, a lot of plastic ties.
Yep. Then of course we had all of the rooms, so we started branching out. So Studio C.
I forgot about Studio C. We had Studio C.
That's Studio A.
Yeah.
Studio C is actually the room where we got the name Chop Shop. This is me in Studio A. Notice the CRT monitors.
Yeah.
That room got so hot. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I spent oh my gosh, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in a dark room staring at screens like this.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it. It was a blast putting all this stuff together.
Would you say it was a blast wave?
No, because that's just silly. There's the network. Remember the transfer station?
Yeah.
We still had the transfer station, but we switched over to the Drobo. But you can
those
see
hard drives that used to crash all the time.
Yep. Oh, I forgot about the crashing. You're right. I've had the Drobo now. I probably need to update it, but this Drobo's been with me for 8 years, I think, 7, 8 years. It's never once crashed.
Oh, those things crash once a month, it seemed.
Those did, but the Drobo I have now, I've reset it just because for various reasons, but it's never once crashed on me.
Wow.
It's hands down been the most solid hard drive I've had. Yep. So we use that to put all the rooms together and tie them all to the network. This is this turned in. Yeah, this is C. This is where we got the name Chop Shop. So this is at the very beginning, but that edit station that you see up in the left hand side, we ended up getting 4 of those.
Yeah,
and we had 4 of those in the room, and we had the network. So before the network was at the transfer station, it was hard drives up in this room.
That's right.
Yeah,
and it was an assembly line.
Yep, and we had I think looking back at what we did, we had a pretty decent system. I think,
we did.
Given what we were trying to pull off. I mean, we were doing massive projects for companies like Apple and Adobe.
Well, it was great. So we take the raw files, we throw them over to Studio C. The guys and gals in Studio C would chop them up, and then they send them over to B and A for the design.
Yep. And then everything would end up in Studio A for mastering. And so
right,
every
yep.
single sound effect that I've produced in the last almost, I think it's 18 years now that we've been in this place. But for the last 18 years, every single sound effect I've produced has been mastered in this room. Yeah. In the last 18 years. The original stuff I did in the apartment. And this is Studio B.
Oh, such a nice room.
I forgot that we had purple walls at one point.
It was a pleasant room. It was the happy room.
Yeah, it didn't make me feel too happy. It was kind of like the Joker worked there, I think.
Oh, man, that was where you could actually go in and have some sunshine.
Oh, that's right. That's right, because you like sun.
Yes, I like sun.
I stayed out of this room as much as humanly possible.
Whenever you came close to hanging yourself, you'd go up to Studio B and just sit and ponder and go, life's not that bad. The sun does shine.
Yeah, there's Studio B. That's how it went from that to that. And now Sean took over Studio B. So now it's a full-on recording studio for him. So he's actually produced and recorded songs up there. He's working on his own, on his first album up there.
Nice.
I've actually heard some of the tracks, and he's super good. Like,
Yeah?
I mean, I know I'm his dad, but some of the stuff, they're
You're
pretty
his
good.
dad?
The rumor.
Does he know this?
I'm not sure yet. I'm going to wait to see if this thing grows.
Okay.
If this thing pops up, I'm like, yep, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the DNA test. But yep. So this is Studio B, and then there's the infamous hard drives.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Once a month at least.
And then
those were the good ones.
What's that? Oh yeah, they were. You spent all this money on this stuff, and then I can't remember back in the day. I think those were like $400 or $500 a pop.
Yeah, well, we went through several different makers.
We finally settled in on Western Digital.
Yes.
And then once we made that decision, to this day, I only buy Western Digital.
Yeah.
And not that I think that Western Digital is the best, although, I mean, it's what worked for us. But once we found something that was consistent, I said, that's it. That's all we're going to use, just for the consistency's sake. But I tried a bunch of other brands, but that was the one brand that, without fail, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think there may have been 2 or 3 drives in all of these years that were Western Digital that just gave up. So what I do is I run a drive for a few years, and if it's like really running a lot, maybe after a year or 2, I'll retire it, and I'll back it up and then just keep it as a backup and then just go to a new drive. Just because I don't ever want to run the risk of, a drive going bad.
Losing everything.
The reality is that I keep everything in triplicate. I have at least 3 copies of everything, and everything I have is off-site in 2 different places.
Oh, you have to. I mean, the short film I shot last year, I had the production drive, the editor's drive, and the master drive. And my production drive crashed.
Really?
I only used it once, but I had 2 backups that I could fall on. And I tell everybody, back up.
I learned
triplets.
I learned the backup lesson when I first moved out of the apartment. At that point, I had amassed I think there was close to 40,000 sounds that I had on my hard drive, and these were 40,000 sounds that I created. This wasn't just other people's content. It was 40,000 of my own sound effects, and the drive failed, and I didn't have a backup, and it hit me. I'm like, oh my God. I'd only been doing it for like maybe 4 or 5 years, but I'm like, I literally just lost my life's work.
Yeah,
which up in that point was only 4 or 5 years. But I'm like, I literally just lost my life's work in one day.
Money. You lost money.
And I was able to, fortunately, my sister did stuff for the military, actually. And so she did all of their networking and stuff, and she's an IT genius. And so I gave her the drive, and she was able to recover all of the content. And from that day on, I said, I don't care how much money the drives cost. I'm always going to have this stuff in triplicate. And to this day, I don't have a copy of everything. I have multiple copies of everything. But
you have to.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I was standing in Studio A. And I remember, I know exactly where I was standing. I was looking at the drive, and I'm like, I literally just lost everything I've ever done. Right. And then that was it. That was the last day I only had 1 copy of anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Notice this. This is Studio B. So notice the logo on the screen.
Yeah. The Detroit Chop Shop.
That was
old.
That's the original Chop Shop logo. And then from there, I'm like, all right, we got to come up with something cooler than that. So what I did was I had my buddy who actually made the Chop Shop logo. I went to him. I said, I want something cool. Yeah, there you go.
My coffee mug.
They make great coffee mugs. But I told him, I said, I want something cool. I gave him the colors. I was like, I want black and orange.
Right.
And the cleaver was what we decided on first, mainly because we called ourselves the chop shop because we were always constantly chopping up sound. So I'm like, all right, how can we visually show that we're chopping things up? And at the time, I was listening to a lot of Dinosaur Jr., which is one of my favorite bands growing up, and they had this one song called "Start Chopping," and it had the single had the painting, the picture here with the cleaver. So I showed him that. I'm like, I want something with the cleaver, and so he designed this, and that's what we ended up going with.
Yeah.
And then there's the tattoo.
You know, it's funny when we went to that logo. I can remember people. You know, we had the hats, the chop shop hats.
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember, and it was just the cleaver, the circle and the cleaver, and people would stop me and ask me, did you get that from The Sopranos? Because The Sopranos, one of the characters on there was making a movie called The Chop House or something like that, and their logo was a cleaver.
Really?
Just a cleaver. So everybody thought that the hat that I had was from the show The Sopranos, and I had to no, it's the Detroit Chop Shop, and explain to them what it is. Like, oh, I know. And I had at that point I hadn't seen the Sopranos. I mean, they were 5 years in at that point, and it was just everybody every time, it was a big show, and we were totally unaware of that show going on because we were busy. We were busy folks.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about the logo. People would ask if we were a restaurant. Are you a steakhouse? Chop house.
Yeah.
They would ask if we were a salon.
Yeah.
They asked if we did auto shop or a motorcycle shop.
Yeah.
Nope. We make noise. Sorry.
Yep.
So once we had the logo design, I started redesigning the rooms, and of course everything had to be black.
And orange.
Yep. Actually, see the rack with the sound effects CDs and stuff? That's where I was standing. That's exactly when the hard drive. I was on the phone with my sister, holding the hard drive, standing right there, and I'm looking at it, going. I was telling her on the phone, I'm like, I literally just lost everything I've done up until this point in my career.
Were you crying?
Well, I didn't. Yes.
All right.
Okay. But I mean, I was tearing up.
Okay.
It wasn't like Niagara Falls or anything.
All right.
But, yeah. And then there's a close-up of some. Now, this isn't all of my content, but at the same time, my stuff didn't end up. Not all my stuff ended up on CDs and DVDs and hard drives. A lot of his stuff ended up just on the web or on servers and stuff. So I think if you were to put all of my stuff on CDs, it would be way more than this. But yeah, there's a lot of the stuff I worked on. A lot of memories. It's almost 700 products that I've worked on now.
Gee whiz.
It's like 600 and I lost count. It's like 670 or 680. We may or may not have some stuff coming up down the pipe that's going to round that off to 700, but
wow,
you may or may not have heard it here first. Here's the equipment room.
Yeah.
Yep. With the whiteboards.
Yeah.
Yep. There's the mic cabinets. A lot of gear. I was always organized. I learned my organization skills from KDN. They had like 5 or 6 ENG packages, and they had them all off on shelves. And they were all color coordinated, and you had like the A package and B package and so on and so forth. So when we started multiple gear packages, I just started using the same.
Well, the organization certainly made everything easier.
There's been so many times when I would waste a half an hour,
just
45 minutes looking for one connector.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm wasting time. So I went out and bought a bunch of bins. I'm like, from now on, we're going to label everything and just keep everything organized. Yeah. So.
Now the Foley room.
Yep, Foley. Sean, he does a lot of practice
floor.
with his band in there. Yeah, oh my gosh.
Did a lot of damage to that floor.
Bang. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. This is outside of this room. This is Studio D there.
Studio D.
There's actually some of the first, in fact, that is the very first sound effects library I ever worked on, right up there in the middle, Impact Effects. That's the very first sound effects
Everybody
library.
had that.
Yep, and it's still used to this day. I hear it all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The crash sounds for the, what's it called? The Hogwart, I think. It's the Halo? Warthog. That's what it is. Hogwarts. That's the school in that with the kid, the scar, and he does magic. Oh, that's Hogwarts. Yeah. Warthog, I think, is what it's called in Halo. But at any rate, the crash sounds come off of that that collection. Any show that begins with world's stupidest, world's craziest, world's dumbest, it comes off of that. Like anytime somebody would crash or get smacked or whatever, it came off of that library. So I guess that makes me the world's dumbest creator of sound effects. This is the lounge. That used to be the prop room back in the day. We had shelves of props.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the Marshall fridge.
Does that go to 11?
I can't remember now. I think it does. Now I got to go check.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it does, though. But you know what? I think it goes to 11, but the button, the power switch, doesn't light up. I'm like, guys, come on. You went all this way. You can click it. It works, but it doesn't turn anything on or off.
Right.
It's just a switch, but they didn't, put the light behind it. So come on. One of these days I'm going to open it up and fix it myself. But,
I hope so.
and then
Oh my gosh, what are we doing here?
Studio D and all of its glory. This was back in the heyday when this was before we started the official internship program. So this is when we were still creating content. I think we were working on stuff for Adobe or Apple here at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do not have that shirt.
You don't? We found a shirt that you don't have.
I don't have anymore. Yeah. Wow. Look at that. That is the
brings back memories.
The old original Brood.
Yep. And that's what it looks like, all nice and clean.
Mm-hmm. I think that's my laptop bag that was in there.
So that's our tour of the Chop Shop.
The Chop Shop.
We got tons more we can chat about, but I think this is a good place to take a break. We'll be back next time on Wild Traxx.
We done?
I think so.
Where's my check?
Shh. Let's play the song.